You, soldier, are a part of this great crusade. Are you ready to rise above and beyond the call of duty?
Hey, Call of Duty mention? Call of Duty mention? So, how do I turn on ray tracing? And where's the VSync? Ooh, I can no scope. Bro was like rolling on the ground doing like fucking 360s and shit. Hey, relax. Bro was doing movement tech. Bro like bunny hopping and shit. Bro, he's slide canceling. What the fuck is going on, Spielberg? What are you doing? Wait, did they throw it back? Damn. That was pretty cinematic. Bro, stop it with the movement tech. Bro thinking Nicki Minaj in Warzone. What the fuck is going on? He got the battle pass and shit. Stanky leg. Hit the stanky leg.
It's that kind of like breathy feel going to it. So the counts are going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
Hit the stanky leg. Whoa.
Ihre Papiere, bitte. Your papers, please. Verzeihung, aber Sie haben Ihre Granate vergessen. Excuse me, but you forgot your grenade. Der Amerikaner hat Hundekuchen in der Tasche. The American has dog biscuits in his pocket. Rennt euer Leben. Hat eine Panzerfaust. Run for your lives. He has a bazooka.
I usually take some notes while playing games for the channel, so that I can record some of my immediate thoughts and then use them later when constructing the videos. So let's take a look at what my notes about Medal of Honor have to say. That's it. Like, that is actually it. That's all I wrote.
You chose poorly.
Why did I write that, you might ask? Because that is what a lot of this game feels like, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. This is not Call of Duty, and it's not the later Medal of Honor games either. It is not yet this sort of purely shootery, militaristic grey drywall. This has sauce. And much of that sauce is extracted from the works of its creator, what was it? Steven Spielberg. Now, I'm not familiar with the guy myself, but I'm told he makes movies or something, and that he once watched his son play GoldenEye, which I suppose we will have to cover on the channel at some point, and this inspired him to go to BoomerSlop and talk them into setting up an entire gaming division for the DreamWorks studio, of which he was apparently a founder and owner or some shit. The result is a game partway between Saving Private Ryan and Indiana Jones. Luckily, the good parts are Indiana Jones and the more uninteresting ones are Private Ryan, but you know, that's how it goes. The vibes, I have to say, are immaculate and do a great job at carrying you through what may otherwise feel like a fairly outdated FPS. For this, I would say the controls are more to blame than the graphics. And this you have to put back in its proper place because that's how FPS games worked back then, but I would say the graphics would actually be not entirely dissimilar to a lot of stuff that modern gamers might be kind of used to. It's not an interactable door either, but hey, let's appreciate it. You can actually see outside. Like, there's a street there. I mean, there's some gaps, but this is pretty good, bro. Bro, this actually looks... I don't want to be that guy, but it kind of looks like Minecraft a little bit.
Don't have the proper identification.
The main difference you will feel between a modern FPS and this is that you cannot move and shoot at the same time. I mean, okay, technically you can because you can hip fire, right? But that tends to be wildly inaccurate and only really works if you're body aiming. By which I mean aiming not by moving the camera and pointing at things, but rather by just moving your entire character and coming into close enough proximity with enemies that they basically fill up your entire screen so that you can kind of hip fire away with certainty. Short of this, aiming zooms you in and increases your accuracy, but you cannot move while you do that. Bitch! You know what's really good here? Okay, so aiming locks you, right? You can't move, but I can't do this. So if I'm like hiding behind cover, like this for example, aim and I can just peek out. That's really good. That's actually really good. There's like fucking corner peeking in this game from the 18th century. That's kind of amazing. Oh, the dogs. Okay, the dog luckily has a massive hitbox. Like, you just shoot in its general direction and it's probably gonna take the hit. Yeah, case in point. Bro, I shot miles away from that fucking thing. Another game mechanic that may, or actually will, drive a modern gamer insane is that there are no save points. Die, and you start the entire level over from the beginning. Simple as that. Fuck. Wait. Oh my god. Also, end the level without having accomplished all the objectives. Once again, start from the very beginning. And this can sometimes happen accidentally because ending a level is done by simply walking through the right exit, which is easy to do without realizing it while running for your life or exploring a little bit too haphazardly, and then you start from the top. This can be very punishing when you've done everything right and you've got nothing but pause, you've got nothing but headshots the whole time and end up getting clipped like 3 feet away from the exit and have to start everything over. But, on the other hand, the game and the sequel both have, I would say, very solid enemy placement and aren't yet ruined by the stupid infinite spawns that plague some of the later titles. When a level is difficult, it just kind of becomes a matter of perfecting your knowledge of it and getting accustomed to taking care of those 2 guys that are near the door, who will always be there, and then fragging the 4 people in the room through the window and so on and so forth. You just learn where the enemies are and you go and clip them one by one. I haven't looked into any speedrunning efforts because I'm not generally very knowledgeable about that stuff, but I would imagine it has to be quite fun for this game, and I'm sure some very cracked people can probably beat the whole thing in like 25 minutes. I would not be surprised.
The story.
There isn't one.
The graphics.
Okay, there's no overarching campaign story in the way that modern FPSs might, or, I should say in the way that FPS games learned to do and then kind of forgot, because some of the current ones are, Medal of Honor is structured in missions, each composed of 3 or 4 chapters, and focused on the accomplishment of a very specific goal. Destroying a monstrous anti-aircraft gun, scuttling a masterwork U-boat, or infiltrating an impenetrable fortress, that sort of thing. The through line is just that you're at war and you must oppose the Nazis in various ways. There is no particular cohesive narrative to speak of, but that doesn't really feel too detrimental, seeing as the missions are very self-contained, and you always know why it is that what you're asked to do must be done. You're well informed, you feel like you're on a mission, and you move forward towards the completion of that, and it feels like it's pushing you forward well enough without necessarily having a more intimate narrative with recurring characters and that sort of thing. There's also no outrageous heroics when you're like going to single-handedly destroy all the Nazi high command or something. It's a bit more down to earth. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an FPS, so you are like killing hundreds of enemies, but still, it feels a bit more down to earth. The tasks are about maybe giving the Allied forces a bit of an advantage in battle, or usually actually about preventing the Nazis from gaining such an advantage. So that, for example, when you destroy that U-boat, the naval efforts of the Allies are going to be a little bit easier in that region. Or you destroy the anti-aircraft gun so that they can have an easier time landing somewhere, and so on and so forth. At the beginning of every mission, you get these video briefs with real pictures, actual war footage, and explanation of the current situation and detailing of Nazi war capabilities and so on. This feels very grounded, and like it was aiming at being partly educational, but not in a pushy way, rather in a way as to give younger people maybe an introduction into a subject that may come to interest them, in a way that feels less overtly didactic than like a dry high school history lesson, and yet still has all the marks of a desire to educate. And it's really not hard to imagine how maybe a little boy playing this back in the day would have developed an interest in World War II history, or maybe the satisfaction that someone might have gotten out of playing this if they already had such an interest to begin with.
The vibes.
Bro, this music is actually reminding me of a Phantom Menace for some reason. It's kind of banging. But the score is, to me, by far, the single most standout aspect of this game. Composed by one Michael Giacchino, who's worked on just about everything ever made in the history of entertainment, and who made it his personal task to fool you into believing that this was actually John Williams himself composing the score. It feels like Star Wars and Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones all rolled up into one, and this really elevates every mission, which in and of themselves are perhaps not the most exciting pieces of gaming ever devised, and yet that stylistic immersion makes you forget about that, and the game just becomes a very nice place to hang out. Not only because you're trying to accomplish a goal and get to the end of a level, but simply because it's a nice place to be while you're doing so. And that might almost seem stupid to say because it's so obvious, it shouldn't even need speaking aloud, but a great many games are so focused on pushing you forth under the guise of, keeping the player engaged, that they actually forget or maybe don't even bother crafting a world that just simply feels nice to spend time in. Medal of Honor is definitely such a world. That goes to show just how powerful a good score can be, because, to be frank, it's not like the game has that much more going for it when you compare it to a modern game. It will be difficult to try and convince a little zoomer to hop on this instead of hopping on a more modern FPS, but the vibes, the aesthetic sensibility of it is what really sets it apart. It is a fun shooter with very decent level design, and the bare bones makings of what we know FPS campaigns will eventually evolve into, but all of that is wonderfully tied together by the aesthetic sensibility of it all, of which the score plays the most major part. Another element of that aesthetic are the menu screens, which are definitely a lost art nowadays, in particular in Western gaming, for most video games period, but especially for an FPS, because since the advent of the absolute, buttfuckery of live service slop, it's gotten so much worse. I mean, what the fuck is this shit? As old and low poly as this is, at least some thought and some love were put into it. You could tell that people cared, and it was more about creating an ambiance rather than trying to optimize how many fucking things can be flashing on your screen into your retinas so that you can have your tiny little stupid pathetic little fucking primate brain activated and then trying to shoot battle pass endorphins straight into your eyes. Overall, I was personally very surprised by this because, to be honest, maybe I played one of the Medal of Honor games back in the day. I don't remember which one. Maybe I have like a vague memory of hopping on something. But I was fully expecting that I would have to play at least maybe 2 or 3 games before they actually start getting fun. I thought, okay, well, I'm doing a Medal of Honor series. I'm going to start from the very beginning so that I do my due diligence and I'm going to get a full context of where the series is coming from, where it's going, so that I can understand the development of it, right? That's the idea of doing the series. But I fully expected I would have to play at the very least through the first 2 before I actually started having fun. Wrong. I started having fun within not even an hour of this. Once I figured out the controls and I had to... Also, I'm playing this on an emulator. Obviously, it's a PS1 game, so I had to manually map all my buttons and things like that. So it took me a little bit at the beginning to get started. Once I got started, I started very, very quickly having a blast. And it turns out that this was not at all due diligence. It's actually a very fun game. Once you get used to the aiming stuff, which, takes a bit of time, and especially when you start getting SMGs and shotguns and you can just start moving around and hip firing a lot faster, the game becomes a lot more dynamic. And then you find yourself actually going through the levels and you kind of feel like you're playing Doom sometimes. Aside from that, the rest feels, honestly, just very normal. There is nothing particularly weird about it. You're just playing an FPS game and, okay, it looks old, the graphics are outdated, sure, but I mean, who cares? Anyone that plays older games sometimes, you know this very well. Your eyes and your mind get used to that sort of thing very, very quickly. I mean, you put on the game, at the beginning you're like, oh wow, this is old as fuck, this looks like shit. Yeah. Fast forward 15 minutes later, you're not really thinking about it anymore. You've already gotten accustomed to it. Yes, the door is low poly, but you stop thinking about that and you look at it and you recognize that that's a door. And you look around and you see that's a window. This is a barrel. If I shoot it, it blows up. Your mind just simply stops thinking about how it looks and only thinks about what it is that you're looking at. You stop worrying very quickly about how many polygons an enemy has because you're just focused on shooting them in the fucking head. So the graphics, when you're playing an older game, stop being a factor within, let's say, the first half hour. And once you're through that, the only thing that's left is the gameplay. And the gameplay here can feel very outdated at the beginning, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes fun and it becomes pretty satisfying to go through it and just kind of landing headshots left and right and destroying an entire room of people with a shotgun within like 6 seconds. It's fun. It's good old, unadulterated fun. And if it's fun today, you can imagine how much fun this was in 1849 when the game actually came out. Must have blown those Victorian people's fucking minds. There is also a surprising amount of stealth here, not sneaking in the modern sense of a stealth game, but more just infiltrating a base and pretending that you're a Nazi.
Can I help you find where you are going, sir?
Forgive me, sir. What unit are you from?
Sorry, sir.
Sir? Forgive me, sir.
You have to be careful not to act suspiciously, not to trigger any alarms. Oh my god. Whoa, 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 shit, 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 shit. That is not what I was trying. I didn't know that would work. I like that you can do that though. That's pretty fucking cool. Bro, I have no health. And I don't know if everyone is gonna be aggro or... That is nice that they... See Kyle, bro. I don't know who Kyle is, but I'll go take a look at him. Okay, I'm not a very good spy. Oh my god, let me move, bro. Just die. You can't move through them if they're still in the dying animation.
I need you to please stop. There you are. Stop, yellow!
I have papers! Look at my papers! No! Look at the papers! Look at the papers! Look at the papers, you illiterate motherfucker!
This is a special ASLELS challenge for you, Floyd. If you can read one full page of a Harry Potter book, nigga, I'll give $750,000 to whatever charitable organization you want to. Fuck the bucket eyes!
All in all, I had a surprisingly good time on this. And as I said earlier, that started very early into the experience. I fully expected that I would need to get accustomed to it and so on, but within the first hour I was already having a blast, and that never really left me for the entire game. Of course, there were frustrations, but I think most of the frustrations were on me. They were, I wasn't yet fully capable of playing the game properly. I would die stupidly, I would do dumb things, I wouldn't understand how the objectives work, and so I'd have to start the entire level over. Of course, that's frustrating. When you're almost done with something and you've done really well and you die right at the end and you have to start everything from the start, that is frustrating. But also, that's on you. That's not really the game's fault. That's on me. I shouldn't have died, and I shouldn't have died stupidly in particular. So I encountered, all in all, very little game-made frustrations. I encountered virtually no bugs. I mean, sometimes, you try to shoot and there's like a texture that's invisibly sticking out and it hits the wall when it shouldn't. Stuff like that. Okay, but that happens in modern games as well. I wish I could increase the camera sensitivity a little bit. It moves pretty slow. But I can't complain about things like that when there are much bigger complaints. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Relax, buddy. What's going on? Oh, you. What the fuck, bro? Yo. There were virtually no bugs. Nothing game-breaking. Nothing really even experience-shaping. I fully expect, this being a game that came out in 1999, I fully expected this to be very frustrating, because old games can be very frustrating. This really wasn't. It's clean. It is, without any doubt, a very high-quality product. It is well made, especially for the period. It is very well made, it is very well put together, and there's nothing that I could really fault on the side of the game that I could say this lowered my experience on a technical level. It works fantastically. It works better than a lot of other games I've played recently. This is bare bones, but those bones are sharp. It holds together, and to me it's always preferable to have a construct that is bare bones but structurally strong than something that's over-engineered and over-encumbered, where it's all glossy and shiny on the surface, but then you realize it just simply doesn't really function very well. This is simple, to the point, it works, it does its job, and it's just a very nice place to hang out. It's a great game. There's a reason the series became what it became. It's sad that it then failed, and I suppose throughout the series we're going to figure out why exactly it failed and where it went wrong. I mean, I'm anticipating that I know the answer. It just became Call of Duty and it tried too hard to stick to the Call of Duty model. Once Call of Duty was born, yes, this spawned it, but it's not the same game. This feels very different. And I guess we'll get a clear answer down the line when we go further into the series, but right now my guess would be that once the success of Call of Duty took over, there was a push for Medal of Honor to just be another one of those, and to just kind of take a part of that market. Which, of course, is the wrong way to go. You want this to stand out, you want this to be unique in its own way. And Medal of Honor fully has that identity, and has the potential to be unique, because it feels like a very different game now. But I guess EA kind of fucked it up, and that's kind of what they're known for. They fuck things up. It is really in their spirit, it's in their soul, it is in their DNA. They are fuck-ups. Rest in peace to Medal of Honor, but at least we have, like 10, 11 games to play, and I hope that at least a few of them are as good as this one, because I'm gonna have a really good time. Cheers. You good, buddy? What's going on? What's going on? You good? You good? You good? You got a fucked up head, bro. Your head is all kinds of fucked up.